Hi, this is RGK and I'm showing you Mr. Shifty by Team Shifty. So when you look at this game, the first thing that comes to mind obviously is Hotline Miami. Because yeah, it's top down, you enter a building and you have to kill quite a lot of goons. So same kind of action game, but eventually you'll see that it's actually very different from Hotline Miami. Well, the first thing is that you cannot pick up weapons. I mean firearms. You can pick up a few things, but not firearms. So it will change the dynamic of the game quite a lot. But instead, what you can do is teleport. This is also called the blink ability in quite a few games, like in Dishonored. You can blink and teleport on the other side of the street or this sort of things. In Warcraft 3 you had the Warden that could teleport, so this hero then gave birth to lots of blinking heroes in the different MOBAs. And I think that from the top-down perspective, when you see from up top, you can see very well where you're going to teleport, and this is just perfect. It works really like a charm. And with this and the fact that you have very strong and powerful punches to kill the enemies, the game feels amazing. You have like destructible environments, you can break walls by just punching a guy into a wall and then teleport and avoid bullets and kill someone else and so on. It's just, it feels amazing, exhilarating, and I really love the feeling of this game. This is the strongest point of Mr. Shifty. Okay, so you might think, yeah, why not just teleport around and completely ignore enemies? There must be restrictions, and yes there are. At the very bottom of the screen you can see like 5 charges, and it recharges very quickly. So it's not like you can just teleport a few times and then you're done. No, you can get into a rhythm, like teleport, 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 or something like that, and then you can always have full charges if you manage it well, and it helps get into the flow of the game, into the specific flow that a few games manage to have when you're playing well and there is a rhythm to your actions, and Mr. Shifty manages that. And also you can still have a few extra charges when you really need to get out of the situation. So overall the teleport system was very well designed. There is also a slow motion that you can use. Well, actually no, that's a problem. You cannot use it, the game decides for you. So first, to charge it, you need to kill a few enemies like very quickly, like a combo meter in quite a few games, and then you charge your slow motion. But then it triggers itself when you are very close to an enemy bullet. So it means that you can avoid death. If someone shoots at you like right in your face, then suddenly slow motion and you can avoid. But the problem also is that sometimes the bullet was just about to graze you, you would have completely avoided it, no problem, but the game decides to enter slow motion and then you just waste it in a situation when you didn't need it. And it can be a problem later in the game, because there are some rooms that are really difficult and you want to have a full charge of the slow motion, but then in the first room of the level, very easy, you encounter an enemy that shoots next to you, and then you wasted your slow motion because you don't have enough time or enemies to recharge before the next room. So this is one of the issues. So then what else can you do? You can throw items, so as you have seen me do already, you have like a shield that you can throw and then pick it up again, or you have other things that break upon impact. So the game lets you attack from a distance a little bit, but it's not very practical because then you have to go pick it up again or find something else, or it breaks and so on. So most of the game is melee combat, and while it is really good, the problem is that if you only do this for the whole duration of the game, it starts to be a little bit repetitive. While Hotline Miami, since you had so many different weapons, you had kind of a different pacing, and like for a moment you would be going in their face and killing them with an axe or katana or something, and then after that you just sit in a corner, you make some noise, they come to you and you just kill them all with an M16 or an AK-47. So in here, in Mr. Shifty, it's always move, punch, move, punch, move, punch, this sort of thing. And in the long run, well, it starts to feel a bit repetitive. And that's not the only thing that feels repetitive, it's also the levels. You are in the same building from beginning to end. And while some floors are a bit different, like more library, some are more yellow, overall, it still feels too much the same. And you know, it reminds me of something else, like the destruction of the environment that is cool, the slow motion, and it reminds me of Fear, the game, first-person shooter game Fear, that was excellent and also had this problem of always taking place in one building, and you need more variety. And same for the story. The story is very bare bones. While it's not exactly a problem, but it doesn't really push you to want to know more, and it's like when they start talking you just want to skip, and you cannot skip. And I find that in Hotline Miami the story was helping with the pacing of the game, violence and a little moment of briefing, then you go back to the violence and so on. And also it was very mysterious, intriguing and so on. So yeah, if we draw the comparison with Hotline Miami was clearly a masterpiece, perfect on everything, while Mr. Shifty is, while it is very good, it still doesn't feel as good as Hotline Miami. Same for the music again. Hotline Miami had a breakthrough music, like it actually made a whole revival in the genre of that music. But Mr. Shifty is some kind of rock, and actually looks a bit like the music of Cluster Truck, and it's not as engaging, as interesting. And overall, my opinion is that the envelope, the outer shell of Mr. Shifty is actually not so great. It's okay, I mean the style is very pure, very simple, but it would be good to be a bit bloody. But yeah, anyway, so the outer shell is not as fancy as Hotline Miami, but the core gameplay itself is excellent and manages to carry the game, and that's what's most important. But then it kind of makes the difference between a good game and an amazing game of the year game like Hotline Miami. Then you also have in this game lots of traps, and that's where kind of the variety also comes from, that you have to avoid lasers, you have to avoid homing missiles, and actually you can use the missiles against the turret that was sending them, or to break a wall or this sort of thing. So you have all these new things that wouldn't be in Hotline Miami, the traps and like specific rooms and so on, that actually help with the variety. Also you have many different kind of enemies. You have enemies with flamethrowers that explode, you have enemies that can dodge just like you, like do a little dash, ninjas, enemies with grenades that you can throw back at them and so on. So a lot of variety comes from the enemies, but it still doesn't feel like it's really enough to make you feel like you are on an adventure and you're seeing fresh new things very often. And I think it's partly done due to the level and to the pacing. The controls are great. You can rebind everything, you can use keyboard and mouse, you can use the controller, it's all completely fine. For the graphics, well, I understand that there are a lot of physics in the game, which looks cool, but sometimes when you have many enemies and many explosions on the screen at the same time, the frame rate can tank a little bit for a very short time. So it doesn't happen very often, but still the game is not like completely high frame rate from start to finish. A few frame rate drops. Then what else can be said is, oh yeah, the final level of the game, I really liked it because then the teleporting just goes into complete chaos, and enemies and stuff are being teleported everywhere, and it gets really fun. But still, overall, that's not that's not enough to make you feel like it's not repetitive. And I think also it comes from like the difficulty. The game starts off very easy and gets more and more difficult. You can still finish it in like between 5 and 8 hours, but then the problem is that you have to restart some sections. So every time then you go from door to door, like you load a new section, it's a checkpoint. But then between these two checkpoint doors, you sometimes have lots of very difficult rooms with enemies that are suddenly spawning around you, appearing from everywhere. And then if you die, 1 bullet, you die, and then you have to start over. And then you can do the same section kind of multiple times until you finally nail it perfectly. And while in Hotline Miami there was variety in like suddenly you decide to change a tactic, to change the weapon you use and so on, here it's kind of always the same way to deal with the encounter, so it's not as fun to repeat a level again and again. And the levels actually, are the elevator. Each time you take an elevator, it's a new level. There are about 15 of them. And the problem also is that if you quit the game while you're, after a checkpoint, after a door, and you come back to the game, you won't go to that checkpoint or door. You will have to start over from the beginning of the level, which can be a bit annoying. And overall, there isn't much replayability once you're done, except if you want to do a speedrun or no deaths. There isn't much more else to do with the game, like no new game plus, because there are no powers to gain, which is fine, you know. Like you can have games that are short and really fun, but I don't wish for replayability exactly, but I would have wished for the experience to feel a bit more fresh and different over the course of the game itself. So yeah, as a conclusion, Mr. Shifty is a good game because its core mechanics, punching, teleporting, the combat is really fun, really well done, exciting, and you can do amazing things and feel great once you've pulled it off. But then the game still doesn't have the same art design, like something as catchy as a Hotline Miami overall, and with the pacing and a bit repetitive, it just remains a good game, not a masterpiece. So yeah, I still recommend it. It's worth it for how fun the gameplay is, but then it's just slightly a bit disappointing. I think I expected a bit too much because it looked so cool, but it's still a good game, so I recommend it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye bye.